Thermaltake contacted me again. I know, I'm as shocked as you, but they wanted me to review the new Argent K5 RGB mechanical keyboard, which of course, I'm not crazy. So I said yes, send it my way. And within a few days I had this bad boy. So let's check it out, shall we? This keyboard comes in at a whopping 349 Aussie, or about 190 US, which makes it the most expensive keyboard I've ever owned, and also one of the most expensive non-custom keyboards on the market, up there with the Corsair K100 and the SteelSeries Apex Pro. The difference between the Argent 5 and those other two keyboards though is they feature optical mechanical switches, which are the latest and greatest and offer double the lifespan and a higher actuation point compared to the more traditional mechanical switches like the Cherry MX Blues or Silvers like I have in my review sample. When I questioned Thermaltake about this decision, I was actually pleasantly surprised by the answer I got from my contact, which was, yes, optical switches have a longer lifespan, but have you ever really heard of many Cherry switches failing? And well, I have to agree with him. The faceplate is a curved single piece of silver aluminium to fit the style of the rest of the Argent series Thermaltake has released, but the numpad and home area is on a raised block of black plastic, which I think takes away from the overall appeal, but aesthetics are always subjective, so others may like this. This is a full-size keyboard with additional media buttons, which are solid with a nice actuation, but strangely these three function buttons are not colour customisable like every other key, which is a little strange as the four above it, which are identical, can be customised. When I asked Thermaltake about this, I was told that they should also be colour customisable, but when I went back and watched their unveil video, I noticed that it was white on their sample as well, so who knows. There is a nice textured metal volume wheel, which when pushed will mute the audio, but it is way too stiff to scroll easily, and you actually have to put a bit of effort in to get it moving, which can be annoying if you just want to quickly lower or raise your audio without really having to think about it. Again, I questioned my Thermaltake contact about this and was informed it will loosen a bit after some use, but it was a design choice to have solid defined steps. The keycaps seemed to be PBT double shot, but was unable to get confirmation on this. The font has this futuristic sci-fi look to it, but I feel like it's just not quite bold enough for my liking, as there is still plenty of room on the keycap to increase the thickness a little more for legibility, which would also benefit the lighting. Under the keycaps is the aforementioned Cherry MX Speed silver switches with a 1.2mm actuation, which are rated for 50 million presses, and a nice linear feeling without a tactile bump, which makes them similar to Cherry Reds. Here is the sound test. The typing experience is very satisfying, with next to no keycap wobble and the right amount of actuation feedback, but I'm someone who bottoms out his keys, so maybe don't take my opinion on these switches. Of course, being such a high-end keyboard means full N-key rollover support, also known as anti-ghosting, so feel free to mash as many keys as possible at once, because they will all register. There are a heap of secondary functionalities on some of these keys, with the F1 through to 12 keys having quick launch and lighting adjustment capabilities, as well as the home area keys. They even seem to have added in the WASD swap with the directional arrows, but I honestly couldn't get it to work. When I asked Thermaltake about it, they actually couldn't give me an answer on it either. On top is a 1.8m braided thick cable, terminating into a 3.5mm TRS connector and two USB connectors with a polling rate of 1000Hz. The additional USB connector and 3.5mm cable are for pass-through, as you can connect up say your mouse or wireless dongle and a headset directly into the keyboard, which is a nice addition. Around the middle of the keyboard, which you can't actually see at all from top down, is more lighting, which you can customise separately from the keycap lighting, but more on that a bit later. On the bottom are four decent sized rubber stoppers and two adjustable fold out feet, with two different height options, which also include rubber feet on each. Included accessories are these 8 extra red keycaps with a plastic keycap puller and this amazingly soft, magnetic pleather wrist rest, which feels incredible, but being pleather means it'll most likely end up looking like my M50Xs after a couple of years. Originally, I was a little mad at how pathetically weak the flip-out magnet held the wrist rest in place on the keyboard, but after questioning Thermaltake, I was given a reasonable answer. It's merely an included accessory for those who wish to use it. The main criteria was to make it sturdy, and I do agree that it holds up in that regard, but still, I wish it could be attached a little more secure. Size-wise, the keyboard is 465mm long, 161mm wide, and 46mm high with the legs extended, and add an extra 60mm for the wrist rest width. Weight-wise, this keyboard is over 1.3kg on its own, and over 1.5 with the wrist rest, which makes this a chonky boy, and not something you really want to be carrying around with you. As you can guess by the aluminium faceplate and the sheer weight, this keyboard is rock solid with absolutely zero twisting or flexing, so you'll have a tough time trying to break this thing during a gamer rage outburst, even though the rest of the body is plastic. Let's talk about lighting, with the two zones being the key switch area and the strip around the edge. They colour match fairly well and are decently vibrant. In other words, they get the job done. You can set the two zones as separate effects, with those effects being static, pulse, wave, spiral rainbow, RGB spectrum, reactive, flow, blink, and raindrops. Then strangely, the two separate areas have their own effects, such as ripple and snake for the top area, and ribbon, scan, and marquee for around the middle, which kind of makes no sense really. You can also set the lighting to be reactive to music, or temperature, with the ability to set different colours for different temperature targets based on your CPU temp. Okay, it's finally time to talk about the gaming experience, and as you could probably guess anyway, it's just about the best you're going to get, with high-end responsive switches, a standard layout, and normal size keycaps. Look, they haven't reinvented the wheel here, they stuck with what works, and it works well. I tested the keyboard out in Doom Eternal because they have basically created that game around mashing as many keys as possible to optimally kill all the demons, meaning you need the keyboard just as much as the mouse to be successful, and as expected, the only thing that let me down while gaming was my own poor decisions. The final thing to talk about before the conclusion is the software called Thermaltake Engine, although you can use Razer Synapse instead if you already have that installed. The software is pretty basic, but covers everything 99% of people would need, with the ability to be able to configure up to 6 profiles and import or export those profiles. You can reassign almost every key, except the media keys and the 3 additional buttons underneath them. You can also configure macros that you can also import or export. You can of course adjust the lighting, or synchronize it with other TT products. Strangely, in the bottom left it tells you your PC's hostname, as well as an internal IP address, which has no relevance to anything you can configure in the software, so it's a bit of an odd addition really. It's conclusion time, and I'm a little torn, as this keyboard is fantastic and definitely feels premium, but I think it will struggle at the current price bracket due to other companies offering additional features, such as optical switches and additional custom macro keys, while the Argent 5 only really covers the basics, but does it well. The Cherry MX Speed Silver switches are fantastic, but they're not the new Butte optical switches that are gaining traction in the higher end market and could soon be the new standard, but that's not to say these switches won't last you for an incredibly long time and are still satisfying to use. I want to say thanks to Thermaltake and Michael for sending me this keyboard, but I'm going to be 100% honest here. I would have never bought this keyboard. I'm not a fan of the silver faceplate, I'm more of a boring stealth black kind of guy, and even though this wrist rest feels absolutely magical, there are other offerings out there that interest me a bit more than just a well-built but fairly by-the-numbers mechanical keyboard, such as the Argent K5. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, and if you really enjoyed it, please consider subscribing for more reviews and other content in the future. If you have a suggestion, question, or criticism, leave a comment, and thank you very much for watching.